Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to all the people who are watching us live on LinkedIn today. Sorry for a slight delay, technical glitch. Welcome to this session, which is MilitaryToCorporate Bridging the Gap, a LinkedIn Live series. I'm thrilled to have all of you here for this session. Tomorrow is Kargil Vijay Divas, and we salute all our war heroes. And on this occasion, M2C is launching an initiative, MilitaryToCorporate Bridging a Gap LinkedIn Live series. So we're going to have two live sessions every month on different topics under the umbrella of MilitaryToCorp Bridging the Gap. So whether you are a veteran who is looking at transitioning from military to corporate, or you're an employer who's seeking to harness this veteran pool, or you are simply interested to understand the dynamic shift, I'm sure all these sessions are going to benefit each one of you and will also provide valuable insight and some actionable advice as well. Before we start, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Major Rimple Khandka, retired. I have about 25 years of work experience, and it started with me being in the military. I come from the family of soldiers, served the country for about 8 years, was fortunate to be part of the Kargil operation as well. After that, 2007, joined Bank of America in their HR vertical, was there for almost about 12 years. And after that, today, I'm a career coach. Coaching military professionals for their smooth and successful transition is something which is very, very close to me, and it's my passion as well. So today's session, what are we going to explore? So we are going to explore what are some of those unique skills and experience a veteran brings to the table, and how it can be translated to the corporate world, and strategies the company can look at when they are launching this veteran hiring program. So throughout our discussion, we will hear from Sunny Makroo on how corporate can leverage this amazing talent. Before that, little bit about Sunny. Sunny has about 15 plus years of work experience. He's a strategic consultant and has been advising 500 Fortune companies and a lot of startups on their strategy, growth strategy. He is a co-founder of MilitaryToCorp, that's M2C. He has also founded a company called Zippy, a metaverse for runners. And recently, he has co-founded a company called 𝐻𝐾𝐫𝐢𝐴, which is a platform for protecting children's health. Thanks, Sunny, for joining us today, and welcome to the session.
Thank you, Rimple. It's great to be here. And before we get started, thanks to you and to hundreds and thousands like you who put their lives at stake as we remember them for Kargil Vijay Divas, and to hundreds and thousands out there. Thank you for your services. So thank you. Good to be here.
Thanks. So, Sunny, before I ask you questions, so I still remember this was year 2006 when I was transitioning from, military to the corporate. I was absolutely clueless about what kind of preparation I need to do, what are some of the steps which I need to take. I didn't have anybody even or any company to support us for that. And also the outlook of the corporate was that, the military people are coming, so they can be looked at only the security kind of a role or admin kind of a role. What I wanted to say is that we didn't have a company like MilitaryToCorporate to handhold us or even to guide us. And of course, create awareness among the corporate vertical about this talent. So tell us, how did you think about MilitaryToCorporate? And it's been almost 11 years now. So what are some of the challenges you faced in terms of onboarding the companies, at the same time preparing the veterans as well? Over to you, Sunny.
Yeah, interesting question, Rimple. Thanks for asking that. Now, if I recall, just imagine this around 2012, 2013, and we didn't set out to build the company, MilitaryToCorporate, right? We set out to solve a problem, and the insight that we had was that there is the military world, and then there is the corporate world, and there's no bridge, between the two. These are two islands that seemingly do not talk to each other in a very cohesive, seamless way. And the first thing that we did, and Varun did, much to his credit, because he had just come out of army after serving a whole sum total of 5 years. And he was a civilian. I mean, he came from a civilian family, didn't have a military background or a family background like yours. And here was this gentleman, 5 years in the army, and when he was coming out, he was clueless. And now imagine somebody who has had his childhood, boyhood, or adult life, and then the work life just in the military. Imagine their plight when they come out. So the first thing that Varun, much to his credit, Captain Varun wanted to do is to just put out a blog and write about all his challenges. So it was, think of it, his personal journaling or a diary, which was just open source, right? So he started with that, and suddenly it picked up a lot of interest on social media platforms back in the day. If some of you are as old as I am, you remember Orkut, LinkedIn was just kind of coming up there. So it was just a digital version of his daily struggles in finding that bridge. And it started with that. Now, what slowly happened, there were a lot of veterans whose story it resonated. And it was because it was done from a personal point of view without any thinking of a corporate moving or building a company as such. And then we saw, on the other hand, a lot of corporates also coming, on this blog, leaving their comments and say that, how do we hire if they are so talented as you think they are, as you say they are? If these are the challenges, what can we do to absorb them? So that was the Eureka movement. We said that, hey, we were convinced that this is a problem that we just wanted to solve, but it seems that it's also a business idea that needs to be done with that professionalism and with that sort of lenses. So that's the genesis of MilitaryToCorporate. Now, coming to the challenges, as you can imagine, there were plenty of challenges. It almost seemed impossible thing to do when we began. And if we knew, honestly, that this was so hard, probably we wouldn't have even started. Like with any startup or any sort of new to the world thinking or a service line that you're building. So coming to the challenges, when we went to the corporates, and I was working in the corporate, I was still working with a very progressive company which had a separate page for veterans in US. So most of the companies which are US oriented, they have a separate page and a pipeline for the talent that comes from the US Army or the US Marine, etc., etc. So we targeted some of those companies who understood veteran hiring, albeit from a US lenses, because they already had some mindset around this, some best practices around this. And then we were talking to the veterans, and the challenges that were there was, hey, and from the company side, of course, veterans are good for security and admin. We don't have security and admin roles as such. Why do we hire them? So we had to kind of, solve for that, and said that, hey, you know what? Everything that we do in a civilian life or in a corporate life from a job function standpoint is mimicked in the army. They have engineers, they have IT professionals, they have cybersecurity, they have supply chain, they have program management, they have project management, they have doctors, they have meteorologists, they have piping submarine designers and whatnot. So first thing was to tell them that, look at veterans beyond the lens of security. Second challenge was that, hey, but these people will be on the right or wrong side of 40s and 50s, and they will be sort of and I'm not trying to use an euphemism, but they will be sort of a spent force. They would have spent their best life and in the military, and therefore what would be left out of them to contribute in the corporate. So we again had to go them and tell them, hey, you know what, 30-40% of the military veterans retire by the time they are in their late 30s, and then another 20-30% is between 40 to 45, so they're fairly young, right? So it's not that you get everybody who's on the wrong side of 50s and 60s. So there is this whole talent pool. Then the third thing was that their cultural moorings and their behaviors, as Bollywood portrays it, they're very inflexible. They don't like technology. They can't work with people who are younger than them. They probably can't work in a very diverse sort of young culture, females, and all of that, right? Because military is a very sort of a traditional hierarchy-driven setup. So we again had to break that myth and say that, hey, it doesn't work. Probably if you want to see diversity anywhere in the world, just go to a cantonment area. You will find people from all states, all linguistic, linguistic moorings. Then you'll find them from different education backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, and all of them work cohesively very well and achieve their objectives. So those were some of the challenges that we had, and we still solve them. Have we solved everything? No, but we've progressed a lot. And then on the veteran side, there were a whole lot of other challenges. They never have made their CV or a resume, right? I mean, their resume is on their uniform and on the stars that they wear on their shoulders. And suddenly, if you tell somebody to sum up their life of 20 years in military on a one single page, less than 200 words cover letter, and suddenly there's a resistance that how do we do it? We've never done it, right? Then the language that military people speak while they are in military is the language they carry forward when they are in the civilian world. That hey, I was a chief of command, or I was a quartermaster, or I was in this cantonment, and this is my commendation, and I was from the Bravo unit doing an alpha thing. So we had to kind of tell them that hey, the onus of unlearning some of the military vocabulary and learning the corporate is on you. So yeah, I mean, I can go on and on, but as we speak today, the challenges are less and the opportunities are more. In the beginning, the challenges were more and the opportunities were somewhere here. So yeah, we kind of turned it around.
Great, but glad that you guys didn't give up. I'm sure it is benefiting a lot of veterans today, being M2C here. So as we know that M2C has more than about 200 plus clients today. So tell us what are the advantages of hiring this military veteran talent, and what are some of the feedbacks you've received from the organization about this talent?
Yeah, so yeah, let's just get this thing out today. I just spoke about the challenges in that in the previous question. Today, every company or every company in any industry which is number one, number two, number three in that space hires a military veteran, and definitely hires from MilitaryToCorporate. The company's platform that we are using today. So we've achieved that already. Right? Now, the benefits of hiring military veterans. Now, I'll kind of take a step back and break this in. How do you even hire? Right? How do companies hire? You being an HR professional, I have hired people, and I have also gotten myself hired a couple of times. So I think the first couple of things that you do is that you do the competency mapping. You say that, hey, I'm hiring for this particular position. Does this person has hard competencies, soft skills, experiences, and all those and all those skills and competencies throughout his career, which makes this person successful in this job, right? Now, what we have seen is that in military people, if you look at the competencies, and let me just break it down again in two, right? In terms of the hard skills, as I mentioned in my previous, in your previous question, that military people, when they are in the military, they come from all sort of educational backgrounds. So you have engineers, within engineers, you have traditional engineers, which is sort of mechanical, electrical, electronics, and then you have the IT or the technology or the computer side of the things, right? So these are the people who have these skills, much like their civilian counterparts who would have just come out of the college. So they either would have joined from the universities after doing these courses or engineering branches, or they would have done it in the military, right? So they're at par. And then you have other branches in terms of the skills, right? You have practitioner-led branches like doctors. You have very specialist like branches like meteorologists, and then you have other folks like Air Force officer, flying pilots. Then you have engineering designers and whatnot. So you have every competency that you need in an industry that's already present with some of these military veterans. For example, supply chain. So whether it's first mile, mid mile, last mile, the military people, women and men, would have moved the material and the manpower and the money and the machinery worth hundreds and millions and billions of dollars, in their career. So you have all these skills. Any job that is being done in the corporate across the levels, across the functions, whether it's function like HR, whether it's function like admin, whether it's function like security, and within them sub-functions like investigations, loss prevention, security and safety, talent acquisition, learning and development, comp and ben, in the HR, and then admin, within the admin wing, right? So you have all of these people having those competencies and having those experiences in a very challenging, environment. I mean, for somebody in the corporate, a supply chain assignment means moving something from Mumbai to Faridabad, right? In a business as usual. Where you kind of predict the weather, you predict the route, you predict, you have a prediction on the pin code and pin code, environment. In the military, the same package when it moves, a delay could mean life and death, literally.
Yeah.
And this then need to move from someplace, somewhere in south of India to Siachen, right, where you don't have any predictability on how that's going to go. So they simulate all those environments and deliver with 99.99% efficiency and accuracy. So that's the kind of not only the skills and the competencies we are talking, but also an environment. And then if you just talk about, right, every job, especially at some level, right, has a people management angle to it. One of the best people managers that we've come across are the people from the military, because from a very young age, I mean, just Rimple sample you, right, at 21, 22, 23 probably, you would have been, managing a platoon or sort of, commanding a section of people who would be from very different cultural backgrounds, predisposed to some of their, thoughts. And you have to manage all of that complexity and lead them probably where their life is on the death. Thankfully, corporate things are simpler. Life is not on the line always. And at 22, 23, there are hardly any people in the corporate, including me, who would have managed 400 people, right? Much like what you would have done back in the day.
True.
So over the decades, your people management skills in the military become the finest across any industry or across any level, right? So these are the competencies that we are talking about that military has, and then softer skills, right? Which is, as I mentioned, I just touched upon people management, but it's communication, whether it's upward, sideways, downward, lateral communication, in oral form, written form, all of that is honed very well. And then the overall behaviors that you hire for, right, which is the right attitude, ability to learn and unlearn. I mean, today's world is far different than what it was, when probably my parents were working, or even my, elder sort of brothers and siblings were working. Today, every 2-3 years, your life changes in terms of the technology that you're working on, in terms of what you're delivering, and the methods of delivery. But military always had this transition happening every couple of years because your appointments were moving. Right?
True.
Moving sometimes horizontal, sometimes vertical, but you were every 2 years exposed to a very different environment, very different location, and a different set of the team and different goals and objectives. Now that gives you a perspective that is second to none, especially when you come in a corporate world and when you come into the corporate world. Right. So if you just look at all of this combined, you have a talent pool which is job ready, plug and play, young, where the government has spent lakhs and millions of rupees in training them. And all of that is ready, with a big smile and a right attitude on their face when you hire them on day one. And tell me, which is the other place where you'll get a talent pool like this? No one, no way. So yeah.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I think you brought a lot of points. And what you're talking about, Sunny, the kind of training which we go through, it's one of the finest trainings, as it is the selection process itself. The short service board itself is such a stringent process. And then the training. So somebody asked me, say, if you have to tell me what was the training about, I just tell them, I was a simple college graduate, went in, and when I came, I was a leader. So that's kind of grooming which happens. So tell me, as we understand, there are a lot of advantages, and I hear from my HR colleagues as well that they're keen on looking at this talent. Hey, why not? But as these people, the veterans, are not so on the social media, so the companies struggle in terms of where do I go, where do I look for that talent, how do I hire them? So can you throw some light, because you've already guided a lot of companies on this? Can you throw some light in terms of how do they design this strategy in terms of hiring these veterans? Where do they start? Where do they go? And what should they do?
I can always give a short answer, being on the board of the directors of Military to Corporate that come to Military to Corporate, and they'll solve it. This is the one
Yes.
place to solve, but just sort of delayering this. When you are starting a program, right now, look at what kind of roles and functions and the industry that you operate in. Uh, Not all industries or not all functions are same when it comes to veteran hiring. For example, if you are hiring for hardcore computer programming, veteran hiring is not the best place to start, right? But now imagine that you have a whole lot of function and a whole lot of focus on anything that is very process driven. Say a supply chain management. Veteran hiring is absolutely plug and play. Apart from functions like, and I won't touch too much on the HR, admin, and security. Everybody kind of understands that a veteran there is just a right fit. Then let's say that on any engineering or infrastructure management of the side of the things, right? Whether it's telecom, technology infrastructure, cybersecurity, those are again the fields where veteran hiring fits very well. So the first thing to do for your organization is to create a heat map that these are the functions, these are the verticals, these are the businesses that you have, and then there will be where there will be some green areas which are like top go-to areas where veteran hiring starts or fits in. So and then there are some amber and some orange and some red which is a no-go for veteran, or you won't have much success. So the first thing is to really create that heat map of your organization and of your sort of talent pool, right? So that's one. Second is that one of the you can always, if you are especially an MNC, right? Look at where your parent or HQ organization has been hiring veterans for which kind of roles, because then you can mimic and mirror some of that for your India entity. Or look at your competitors who have done it successfully, right? And who have hired veterans. Where have they hired veterans? And all of this information is available on the LinkedIn, but we are very happy. We, in fact, do this consulting assignment with some of the companies where we understand what their goals of talent acquisition are, and then we kind of create a heat map and start there. So once you've started there, run a pilot program, right? Because it's not very easy. Even if you have this heat map, I think the work starts from there, because neither your talent in most cases, your talent acquisition, if it's the first time you're hiring a veteran, you would not even know where to start from in terms of how to even interpret a CD when it comes from a veteran. Let's say that you have a supply chain, a JD kind of going out. You know when it's a civilian what you're looking at, but you don't know or how to interpret a veteran CV for the same job, though they may have excellent experience that kind of matches the JD. Because the language on a veteran CV would be very different. Some of the experiences would be kind of masked because of the sensitivity of what they have done, and you won't be able to interpret your some of the appointments, right? For example, somebody says commanding officer. You wouldn't know whether it's a director role or a senior director role, or it's a manager role, or it's an associate role, right? So some of that work needs to be done, and that's where people like us come into the picture, and we not only help you source these people, but we also train the trainer in a sense. Tell you how to navigate these CVs, how to read them, how to interpret them. And once that is done, then the whole work of onboarding starts. If you're hiring more than one, and you believe that this is a continuous, sort of a talent pipe for you, what successful companies then do is that they curate a mini sort of an acclimatization stroke induction program for these veterans, where if you have a veteran already somewhere in the company, they become the single point of contact, or somebody who has an empathy. Because in your what we have seen is that if you're an organization, even if you don't have too many veterans, you would always have somebody whose father and hopefully as the new talent pool comes in, their mother is has been in the army, so they have a very natural empathy towards them, right? And they understand the DNA. So some of those people then become the spokesperson internally in your organization, and they kind of run this program. And then you have those checkpoints, in the first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, just to kind of make sure that the program is aligned. And once you run this cycle a couple of times, you will see that this is your organization has now developed the muscle for this, and you can kind of run the program. So these are some of the best practices that we have seen.
Great, great. Thanks, Sunny, for sharing that. At this point, you know what, a thought came to me, and I want to bring this up is that, yes, we see that now companies are opening their doors. As you said, one of the things which M2C is doing, creating awareness as well, running the veteran hiring program. But at the same time, since I've been coaching a lot of military professionals on their transitions, and as a career coach, this is a message I would like to give to our veterans as well. Is that now the companies are opening our doors. We definitely need to be prepared. We cannot just say, okay, now the companies have opened the door, they'll take us. We definitely need to prepare. And at a very high level, I can say, how do you actually go about preparing for your transition? Is that, I would like just want to give 4 pointers. I mean, the first thing is that know your passion, what you really want to do out there. But what I've seen is that a lot of veterans, when they are interacting with me, and I ask them, "What do you want to do out there?" They kind of talk about, say, what, Rimple, I can do admin and security, I can do logistics, I can do HR, I can do projects. So I said, that's good, but tell me, what do you really want to do out there? And then there is a big question mark. So the first thing which you should do is to find what do you really want to do, identify these 1, 2, 3 domains. And this is something which we do at M2C. We run a program called Career Transition Program. And that's the first topic which we touch upon. And during my sessions as well, we talk about this. So number one is know your passion and what do you really want to do, identify your domain. And then comes in terms of understanding your skills and competencies. So you've identified these domains and okay, these are my skills and competency. Where's the gap? If there is a gap, then how do I minimize that gap, whether through certifications, doing an MBA program, or doing some internship? That's how you should go about. Number three is then start working on your LinkedIn profiling, building your brand, networking. Very, very important. Networking not for getting a job per se, but yes, to understand what kind of roles, what kind of industries, what kind of domains are there. And then coming to technical aspects about, say, the resume making, understand that, just making a master resume and floating it everywhere absolutely will not work for you. How do you tailor that resume based on the job description? And then preparing for your interview well in advance. These are the 4 points I want to leave the veterans here who are watching, that when you are, preparing for your transition, absolutely go through this. And we have a lot of material which we have created for the veterans, which is there on the website. So if you're keen, go to our website, read about this material, which talks about LinkedIn, resume, interview, and it really, really help you. So I just wanted to bring that point, Sunny. So, and with that, I just wanted to ask you the, probably last question, and then we can open up for questions and answers. We have about 10 minutes. So the last question is that it's been 11 years. So what are some of the initiative M2C is doing or launching to bridge this gap? And the series is all about military to corporate, bridging the gap.
Yeah. So Rimple, in your sort of previous question, I addressed most of the gaps or most of the toolkits on the corporate side of the things. But you gladly you brought some of the things that our veterans need to know. The message that I want to kind of give with the underlining is that the onus of this transition or the onus of this learning lies on our veterans. While we will continue to do sensitization on the corporates and tell them, how you can absorb more and more, which we've done successfully from almost very few companies hiring to sort of 200 plus companies hiring on a recurrent frequency. Learning and knowing that getting a job in the corporate and all that, unlearning that you have to do from your military life, and I'm deliberately using this word life rather than military job, because those behaviors that one picks up in military are not going to help in the corporate, right? For example, your CVs or your profiles need to be crisp, but they also need to be in a language that a person with 2 years of experience in the corporate with no military background understand. Can that person understand the resume of an infantry officer with 20 years of experience fighting battles in a way that probably for a chief security officer job description needs to be understood is on the infantry officer, not on that 2-year-old sort of 2-year experienced, girl or guy
Correct.
in the company, right? Then preparedness for this. Coming out of the military and hoping and thinking that you'll get a job in the 1, 2, and 3 months, with just having some conversation and just some sort of a 2, 3, 4 pager floating in is not going to cut out, right? You're going to struggle. So that that's important. Now, some of the initiatives that we are taking, both on the supply side, which is the veteran side, and on the demand side, which is on the corporate side, are as follows. We run a highly successful, 100% successful program, career transition, program that Rimple UAPLE run. That I believe is sort of the cornerstone of every initiative that we are doing on the supply side. That 12-week program, if I'm correct, helps everyone to come to a same page and start their search, with much heightened understanding of what they need to do. So that's a very good initiative, the CTP initiatives. We, apart from this, on the supply side, we do resume help and resume support, just to kind of help veterans to make a CV which helps them to land a job and land an interview. Apart from a few other focused interventions that we do with some of the veterans. On the demand side, or on the corporate side, we run customized, bespoke programs for those companies which are hiring veterans on a regular frequency, which is, as I mentioned, onboarding them, helping them to get these people, and how to kind of make sure that this talent pipeline remains successful and engaged in the company. So that's a program that we run. We also run some of the L&D initiatives. There's a whole lot of leadership knowledge, that is in the military. In fact, military, I believe, is the first cradle of leadership. Because there's hardly any other institution which teaches you leadership, where your followers, in a sense, are willing to die on your one command. In corporate, as I said, thankfully, you don't have to die. But how do you make some of that leadership soft skills fungible across these two worlds? And that's an initiative that we have done on the L&D side of the things. And obviously, I mentioned about custom programs that we run beyond the heat, the consultancy around where you should hire veterans, helping you create the JDs, helping you understand the CVs, and then helping you onboard and sustain this talent pool is something that we do with the corporates or on the demand side of the things. So yeah, those are some of the key initiatives that we have.
Absolutely. I think, thank you for that, Sunny. With that, I think we just have about 5-6 minutes. So can we look at some questions if they've come?
Sure.
Let's
please.
just check on the chat, and if we can pick up some questions. Okay, so one of the questions, I think the first questions Besa has asked Kumar is, why a huge gap between position in corporate as per military ranks?
I am assuming that this question is more talking about the gap in a sense of the leveling,
right? The hierarchy.
The hierarchy and the leveling. Now, there are many reasons for it, and some of them, from a corporate standpoint, are justified. Now, somebody having 20 years of military experience may not translate to 20 years of experience in the corporate. It may, sometimes what happens is that, and I use this often, not from a military context, but overall career context, is that you have to see, are your 20 years 1 year multiplied by 20, or 5 years multiplied by 4, or are they 20 years of vast experience, which is very diverse experience? Then what also companies understand and need to do is that your 20 years, how much of it is distilled and useful for a particular role? And that's why sometimes we think that there is a gap, but it may not be a gap. It's just that you come from it's like, you may have scored 10,000 runs in the Ranji Trophy, right? And then when you go to play an ODI in the international stage, you're still playing your first match, and your experience of those 20,000 runs is useful, but it's just a different turf and a different pitch altogether, right? So that's why we see a gap, but it's usually, you have to see that what is relevant, and from that relevancy, the corporates kind of take a call.
Great. think we'll take another question, which has come from Dhruv. What are the important qualification an infantry officer should work on while one is preparing to make the transition the last 2 years of service?
Yeah, I think this question is good, but prelude to this question is that your certifications and qualifications depend on what you want to do outside.
True.
Now, as Rimple, you mentioned that know your passion, the kind of the workshop that you run, with the military veterans as part of the career transition program helps to understand some of that. That what is that you want to do. Once, for example, if you want to do security, or if you want to do project management, or if you want to do admin, your qualification and certifications and sort of a re-education or new certificates will depend on that. So from this question, I can't really answer that what you should do, but before that, you should actually know what is that you want to do, and based on that.
Yeah. As you correctly, one of the things which I also keep telling, that what do you really want to do some kind of a self analysis of yourself. What do you want to do after doing your networking and other things? That what do you want to do? And once you know exactly what you want to do, then you can look at doing some certification. And yes, 2 years is a good time to start. Don't wait till the end that you just have about 4 months or 3 months to go, and then you start thinking, hey, what do I want to do? So at least you have started thinking. That's a good thing. That 2 years is a good time. So get your perspective clear in terms of 1, 2, 3 domains you want to target, and then you can look at streamlining. And I think the others are general comments which have come in terms of hiring trends is more of commissioned rank in compared to non-commissioned rank. So have you, would you want to take this question? Is there any trend you have seen that non-commissioned and commissioned officers in terms of the hiring pattern?
I would not really go into that debate of who's commissioned and who's non-commissioned. But what matters is that when you're coming out, right? What are experiences and competencies that you carry? Because outside world doesn't really have that understanding of the hierarchy that you had while you were in uniform. Outside world is going to judge you based on your competencies and experiences and skills. If it so happens that a commissioned officer has more enriched experience, a better personality, far refined communication skills, they are going to be positioned that way outside also. So you kind of carry, there's a continuity in terms of your experiences. But if it so happens, and we've seen in many cases, non-commissioned officers and junior commissioned officers, they have come out and they have taken a position which is in the outside world at par, commissioned officer, because to the outside world, it doesn't really matter, what kind of a uniform you wore, how many stars on your shoulders, what were the stripes on you, as long as you can exhibit that you have those competencies and skills and experiences.
I think that's it. We are also up the hour. Rest our comments. So thank you so much, Sunny, for joining in today. And it was amazing speaking to you, knowing about the journey of M2C. What are some of the initiatives? And thank you, everyone, for joining today. So this series, we have launched it today. So wait for our next month. We're going to have 2 sessions there where we are going to talk about different topics as I said, under the umbrella of MilitaryToCorporate, bridging the gap. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And if you wish to know more about M2C, we'll be posting the link. You can write to us, or also the link of our website. You can go through that. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Sunny, for joining in today.